Hello and welcome to Switch Scheme. In this video, I'll be going over the Nitro Deck by CRKD, giving you the pros and cons and whether or not I feel it's a worthy addition to your Switch accessories. To give you an idea where I come from when it comes to devices, I actually come from the Satisfy family. I've been using one of these for the longest times ever since Wood from Beat 'em Ups did a really good review of these a few years ago. I started using it on my original Switch. I then went over to the Switch Lite, which I no longer own, and now we have the Switch OLEDs. This is actually my wife's device because I've been using the Nitro Deck. And I'm going to kind of let you know that right off the bat, I like the Nitro Deck more, and I'll explain why when I get to the review. I still think this is really good, especially if this is either A, too expensive or a little bit too big for your taste. If you enjoy the content, drop a like and sub. I just started this channel a couple months ago, and we are already almost at 1,000 subscribers. I couldn't be more excited. We've gotten about 450 new subscribers over the last couple weeks, and thank you to every single one of you who have joined the Switch Scheme family. I do want to go over the giveaway details for the month as we are getting a lot of new viewers and let you know how this works. During every video in the month of January, you will see a random code word pop up. Just use that code word in the comments down below on that respective video, and you will enter to win one of 2 Nintendo eShop gift cards. I'll give those away at the end of the month as a thank you for your support. One of the things I'm going to be doing in this video that's different is I'm going to be giving away my old Satisfy grips for the Switch Lite. Keep in mind these are for the Switch Lite only. They will not fit a Switch OLED, and they will not fit a Switch Original. These are too small. The reason for that is I was initially going to be selling these on eBay. I've already sold a couple of my Satisfy grips ever since I got that, and again, these don't fit anymore. And usually what we do is we sanitize them, clean them off, get them ready for shipping. Everything still feels really good, but to be honest, you know, they're like 20-30 bucks and I don't need them anymore. So I took them off eBay so that way I can give them away to you guys as a thank you for your support. Keep in mind, they're only for Switch Lite. To enter to win these, all you got to do is email me at one spelled out, that's one_minute_reviews@yahoo.com. Again, that's one_minute_reviews@yahoo.com. In the subject line, put Satisfy grip, and in the body you can put whatever you want. At the end of the month when I do the giveaway for the gift cards, I'll go ahead and give these away as well if you're interested. Keep in mind, I do have to have your address because I have to ship these to you, and if you're not okay with that, then please do not enter. And again, they are used. If that bothers you in any way, please again, do not enter. These are not brand new sealed. I've used these for a couple years. They are completely sanitized and clean and pretty much ready to go, but if that is something that bothers you, again, please understand where we're coming from with giving these away. All right, let's get to the review. Let's go ahead and take a look at the size comparison. Here we have the Nitro Deck and we have my wife's Switch. And if we take this and line up the Switch right here with the edge, we see that the Nitro Deck is about an inch or 2 longer than the normal Switch, and it is significantly fatter. But that's to be expected as this is going to be holding the entire system with all the bells and whistles, and this is literally just a grip to give you more hand space. Now, another device we can look at when we're comparing size is the Steam Deck. Here's mine here, and if we put these side by side, you can see that the Steam Deck is a few inches longer, and it is about a half an inch taller, but not by much. When it comes to the weight, that's where the difference is really going to shine. The original Switch with just the Satisfy grip is coming in at 1 pound, maybe 2 ounces. This is coming in at 1 pound 5 ounces, and the Steam Deck is coming in at 1 pound 8 ounces or 1 pound 9 ounces, and that is significantly heavier than the original Switch, but this Switch with the Nitro Deck is actually right in the middle, which is great. It's not too heavy, it's not too light, it feels really good in your hand, whereas opposed to this gets kind of heavy over long periods of play, especially if you're playing in bed and you're like holding it above your head trying to lay on your back or something. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Nitro Deck and all of its features. Basically, we'll start at the front. First, we have Hall Effect sticks, so there's not going to be any stick drift with these, which is awesome. And the best part is they are interchangeable, so as you can see, you can pop that right off. You can either make this taller, smaller, or if you just wear the grip down, you can just change it with one with better grip and you can replace it. Same thing goes for this one. This one is also interchangeable as well. Another feature that I really like about this one is actually these front-facing buttons. They're a little bit taller and a little bit thicker than the original Switch. These are a little bit smaller and flatter in comparison, and I really like these more. They feel a little bit more chunky. They have a good click to them. They don't feel too mushy. They don't have the same kind of click as, say, the Switch buttons. The Switch buttons do have a nice click to them. These don't have the same click, but the size of them makes me like them more. It also has a really good D-pad. Spawnwave did a great breakdown of this system where he actually took it apart and looked inside, and we saw that the D-pad was actually really well made and constructed considering the overall cost of this device. So for me, the D-pad is a huge win. You also have your standard menu buttons and everything up here. The new button is this one right here down at the bottom, the cracked icon. You turn your Switch on, it's going to light up, and this is going to be your indicator for when you want to do things such as programming the buttons on the back or changing that. Now, you don't have to keep this on. You can turn it off. You can dim it. You can turn it all the way off. You can do whatever you want with it. For me, I just leave it as default because it doesn't bother me. However, if you're playing the Switch and that extra light's going to draw your eye away because it is distracting, you can turn it off. Let's go ahead and now take a look at the top of the device. On the top, we have our standard triggers. These front bumpers feel great. They feel fantastic. They have a nice click to them. I don't know if you can hear that. They're really, really good. My issue with these bumpers is these back bumpers. They are terrible. They are very mushy and they're not very clicky. You don't really get any sort of feedback that you've clicked them. The only way you know is because of how far back they depress. I really wish they had some sort of click. When you go from something like, for example, my PS5 controller, right? Haptic feedback, you really know when you've hit something, right? Not only is it pushing back against you and giving you that resistance, but you get a little click to it. These, however, have no click. They have nothing. They literally just squish down, and I cannot stand the way that those feel. Now, the good news is I don't play a lot of games that require triggers. I don't play a lot of shooters on my Switch. I usually use my computer for that. So for me, it's a moot point overall, and it's not something that keeps me from enjoying the Nitro Deck. But if you're a shooter player or a player that uses these triggers a lot, these may bother you if you really enjoy the clicky tactile feel that you get from the original Switch. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back of the system. This is going to be where all our bells and whistles really are. Down here, you have the program button. This button is what's going to be allowing you to program these back-facing custom buttons, as well as changing and turning off this front-face button. It's really not that complicated. The deck does come with a booklet to give you all the information in many different languages, so you can follow along and do it rather easily. I will say though that the fact that you have to use this booklet and go through some steps to get these custom buttons to work is a little archaic and not intuitive enough for me to recommend this for some people, and I'll go over who that is in a little bit. Another thing that I do not like about the system is this kickstand. Not that the kickstand is bad. The kickstand is fantastic. It has a lot of resistance. It's going to hold its shape very well depending on where you want to put it on the table. But for someone like me who in the 6 years I've had a Switch has never once used my kickstand, I wish I didn't have to have it. I really wish I could have gotten a model with a full backplate and not had this here. Aesthetically, it looks terrible to me. I will never use this and I wish it wasn't there. You do have the IRDF reader right here, and it has a little symbol so you know where it's at, so it's not hard to miss. And then you have the programmable buttons. So let's discuss these. In order to program these buttons, you have to hold the button here, wait for this to flash. Once this is flashing, press the buttons and then enter your combo and press the button that you want to assign that to. In theory, that sounds great. The problem is if you ever grew up in the early 2000s, you had to do that with your Mad Catz controller for the little, spin-off control you gave to your friend whenever he'd come to visit. Why are we still having to do that sort of archaic programming here in 2024? Most devices like this, you can plug into your computer and it has a built-in software that just lets you go in and set up the hotkeys. I wish this had that. Now, I understand that if we did that, the cost of this would go up a little bit, but overall, it is something that I do wish it did come with. The reason I don't necessarily believe that this is going to work for everybody, there are going to be some people out there, and it's up to you to determine if you want to judge them on their IQ or not, who are just going to throw this away and think nothing of it. They're then going to try to go and program something on here and be completely confused. They're going to have to look it up online, or they're just going to get frustrated, pitch the system, or say it's defective, or just give it a bad review because they don't understand how it works. Not everybody reads instruction booklets. Not everybody reads terms of service. Not everybody goes through the tutorial. You know it, I know it, we all know it. So for some people, very few people, the fact that you have to go through the programming in such an archaic way is going to turn them off of this system. That being said, it's only 3 steps and it's not that hard. You'll be okay. For me, how did I set these up? Well, there's one big flaw with this system that I do agree with other reviewers, and that is the distance between this thumbstick and these front-facing buttons. It's a little far. When I'm playing a game that requires me to use this thumbstick either as a camera control or gun control or something like that, and I have to lift my hand off this to get back to these buttons to activate a reload or melee or crouch, it is very inconvenient because of the distance between the two. I have really small hands. I am only 5'6". I am a short king. It is the life I live, and for me, that distance does hamper my enjoyment of the Nitro Deck just a little bit. Not enough, like I said, to get me to stop using it because I found a solution, but when I'm holding the system and I'm trying to go from here to here, you can definitely see that I have to hold it at a pretty awkward angle so I can get to that X key. I can't just, comfortably have my hand down here and then get up there. I have to move my whole entire wrist to pivot my arm up there to get to those keys. It's a minor inconvenience. It is something you'll get over with, and if you have long fingers or bigger hands, it will not bother you at all. But for anyone with small hands like me, that will get annoying. But I fixed it. How? The back-facing buttons. A, B, X, Y. I've gotten used to that, so for any game that requires heavy use of this thumbstick, I just use these instead. It took a little training, right, to get used to using these instead of the front-facing buttons, because I am so used to just using like a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller. I'm used to that movement, but this saved the day. If these weren't here and this was like that, this would be unusable because of how uncomfortable this is. But thankfully, I just do this. I don't play Mortal Kombat, I don't play Street Fighter, I don't need these to be big combo busting moves. A, B, X, Y, perfectly fine. So the next thing we're going to talk about when it comes to the deck is the input and output. If your Switch is in here, you can plug in the input, plug in your C-type, and it will start charging your Switch. On the other hand, if you want to use this as a controller, you can take your Switch, put it in the dock, get it up on the TV, plug the output to your dock, and then use this as a controller. You cannot go from here to your TV to like project the image. It doesn't work that way. It would have you think that just by the nature of it being called output, but that's not what it does. All this does is allow you to use this as a controller with your Nintendo in its original dock on the TV and this plugged into it. Why you wouldn't just use a wireless controller or your wireless Joy-Cons at that point, I don't know, but if you've become so accustomed to this, especially having these back buttons, it might behoove you to go ahead and plug this into your dock and use this as a controller and it won't bother you at all. The last thing we're gonna look at on the back here is the latch. When you lift this latch, what happens is it takes two little hinges that are right here and pulls them in so that way this can slide in and out. So for example, if I push it in, I have to pull this out. Looks pretty simple when it's on camera. What you can't see is how much pressure you have to put on the face of your Switch in order to get it out of the system. It is not something that is very smooth. Pushing this does not push the Switch. Pushing on this little latch does not give the Switch a little bit of a shove to give it out of its dock. No, you just push it in, it pulls in the two latches, and then you have to kind of get some friction in, as you saw, and slide it off. For most, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but for someone like me who doesn't like pushing down on this screen very much because it just feels a little weird, like I'm going to crack it or break it, it's not very comfortable. Is it a deal breaker? Absolutely not. Especially because, like me, I don't really take it out of here very often. In fact, that's probably the first time I've taken it out of this thing in the last couple weeks because I usually just play it in handheld. I almost never play my Switch in docked unless I'm recording for a video. Lastly, let's go ahead and talk about the internals here, if you can call them that. We have obviously the little C port for the docking station for it to click in. Here is where you have the two little latches. If I pull this up and down, you can see those kind of moving in and out right here. The good thing is, as SpawnWave noted, these are made out of plastic. These are not made out of metal. And of course, your first inclination is going to be, but wait, if they're made out of plastic, doesn't that mean they're going to break? Possibly. Obviously, it hasn't happened to me. If you abuse the system, obviously it could happen, but if they were made out of metal, what would happen is it would actually scratch the railing of your Switch. There are other reviewers who did note when they did use a device like this that had metal hinges that would slide the deck in and out, it would actually scratch the Joy-Con track rather badly, and it would leave it really scratched up and scarred looking. So the fact that these are plastic means that it doesn't damage the actual aesthetics of your Switch. I'm going to set this up here for right now. The other thing you have is you have this little notch right here, which is great. It means that when the Switch is inside, you can just flip open the little cartridge container cover and get your cartridge in and out. There was another system like this that someone had made that did not have this little lip in it, and what it did is it kept it flat and flush with the rest of the system, and you couldn't open and close it. You had to actually pull the Switch up, then open it, change out the cartridge, put it in, and then slide the Switch back in because that didn't have this little ledge. So good on them for thinking about this up front and this not becoming a problem. The other thing you have is you obviously have your ports. You have the fan ports and sound ports, and they work perfectly fine. I haven't had any issues with the system overheating or getting hot, and again, I've been using this non-stop for the last couple months, so that's a good sign. Currently playing Persona 5, which is a pretty heavy game, and again, no issues. So that's pretty much all the features of the Nitro Deck. Taking a look at all of the different sections of it. Let's go ahead and go real quick over all the pros and cons in rapid fire. We have the distance between these two being a little bit too wide. That's a con. Another con we have is the squishiness of these buttons on the rear bumpers. It doesn't feel all that great. The other con is going to be this kickstand. I don't like having it on here. I will never use it. Aesthetically, it's ugly, and I wish I didn't have to have it. I would rather this be one backplate. Next, we have the release catch. I don't know why this doesn't have to give the Switch a little bit of a nudge so that way it'll be easier to slide in and out. That would be great, but that's not what it does, so therefore you do have to put a little bit of pressure on the screen to get it in and out. Going over the pros, It's comfortable. It really is comfortable. It has a good ergonomic feel to it. It has a nice curvature here. My hands don't really ever get tired. The spacing and size of these back buttons is great. I don't ever feel like I can't find them, but I also never feel like I'm hitting them on accident. If I hit them, it's because I meant to. They are in the perfect spot, at least for me. I do like the way that these front buttons feel, and I do like the D-pad. I do like these are obviously Hall effects and removable, so that way I can interchange these out with, especially when the grip gets bad, because once this grip wears down, I do like to replace it. Overall, this is a huge positive, and there's one positive that's not even a feature of this device that I really, really like. Let me go ahead and grab my Switch, and we're gonna slide this in real quick. All right, super easy. And what that little feature is this input-output section on the back. Why? Because it makes a really good handle for your Switch. It's not advertised this way, and I do not recommend you doing this, because if you drop it, it's on you. But for me, I have found myself repeatedly going throughout my house, whenever I need to grab my Switch, I don't grab it like this, I don't grab it like this, I always just grab it, pick it up like this, and I carry it around the house, kind of like it's a little bag. It kind of centers the weight perfectly, so it feels comfortable in my hand when I'm walking around. If you hold the Switch like this, you know it's a little top heavy, and you feel like sometimes like you're gonna drop it, or it's swinging a little bit too much, and if someone hits it, it's just gonna come flying out of your hand, because this doesn't have a grip, right? This is just a textured plastic. But when I have it like this, I feel much more secure. So that's my review of the Nitro Deck by Cracked. I'm gonna give this an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's really, really good, especially if it's something that you're looking for. I am gonna go ahead and use it over this Satisfy grip, but we are gonna discuss why this might be better for you here in a second, and that is going to be the cost. One other downside of this device is the cost, and unfortunately this one was $90 to $100. That's a lot for a grip. Now, of course, there are some that are more and some that are less. The Satisfy is less, but the thing is, I had to get the case with this because I wanted the GameCube version, because I am a huge gamer when it comes to that era. I played GameCube, Resident Evil Remake, all that stuff. I really wanted this design, but in order to get this design, I had to get the case with it, and that was an extra like 30-35 bucks. Now on the website it says comes with a free case, but all the other Nitro Decks are only 60 bucks or so. So this being 90, even though it's the exact same construction, the only difference is the colors, when again, they're all interchangeable based on the stuff they show on their website. It tells me that the only reason this is more is because I'm buying the case, even though it says the case is free. I don't believe it. That's complete malarkey. You made me buy this and the case. So whatever sale you were doing where you said the case is free, I don't believe it. I'm sorry, and I don't like being lied to, so that kind of ticked me off when I initially did the purchase, but I quickly got over it because, like I said, I really like it. Now, keeping in mind this video is not sponsored, so you can take that with a grain of salt if you want. That's how I felt about it. When it comes to the comfortableness of the device, I still say that this is overall more comfortable because it doesn't have the weight. This is still pretty light. It's only 1 pound, 2-3 ounces, and it is a nice grip. It holds the Switch pretty well, and it is very flexible when it comes to wanting to move it around the house. You can just pick it up, hold it by the grip, and slide it somewhere. That makes it a little bit chunky. That makes it a little bit fat, and to be honest, taking it in and out of that is a pain. Taking it in and out of this is really easy. You just hold it here, push on there, and it slides in and out. It's very simple. Taking that thing in and out of the Nitro Deck isn't as fun, and it's kind of a reason why I can see some people not using it. For example, if you like to use it on the TV a lot, or you like to connect it to your computer a lot to use like a capture card, that may not be the best system for you, because the Nitro Deck is going to require you to constantly be pressing in on that screen to get it in and out of the track. And you may not like doing that. I don't like doing that, but I don't use it enough that way that it matters. When I was watching one of the reviewers, he said that his had a rattling sound and it made him feel like the product was cheap. I don't have a rattling sound, even if I rattle this pretty heavily. If I take the Switch out, right, I take it out, there's no rattling in here. There's nothing clinking and clanking around, so I don't know what happened. I think that maybe perhaps his had a damaged board. Maybe the board inside was chipped a little bit, which is unfortunate, right? Especially if you spend 60 bucks on this, you do not expect that to happen. But I just want to let you know that for me, there's no rattling. It's pretty solidly built. I don't have any issues with that. The very last thing we're going to talk about here is the construction of the device. When you pull this out, you're initially going to think, wow, this feels like a hunk of junk. It doesn't feel very thick. It doesn't feel very hefty. It feels kind of cheap in your hands when you're holding it without the Switch in it. And that's completely fair for you to think that at first, but you have to keep in mind, this has to contend with the weight of this. If this was really hefty, thick, and chunky, and then you added this, it would make the overall experience very unbearable in terms of how much this weighed. Remember, this is supposed to still be a handheld. You're still going to want to carry this around, play this in bed, what have you. If this weighed too much, it wouldn't be comfortable enough. So for me, even though, yes, when I first picked it up, I thought, you know, hey, I paid 60, 70 bucks for this thing and it feels like it's made out of the cheapest plastic on the planet. Once everything got put together, it felt a lot better. So just keep that in mind once you pull out of the box. It is going to feel that way, but it's really actually not that bad. All right, so I think I've covered everything that I can cover. Like I said, 8.5 out of 10. It's got some pros, it's got some cons. I am overall going to keep it and continue using it. If this is something you're interested in, I will put the links for this device down below. Obviously, get whatever color you want. They just came out with some see-through colors, which look pretty cool. And if you use one of these, let me know in the comment below. What was your experience? And if you use a different grip, let us know that as well. What other grips do you use? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put Spawnway's video down below for this, because I want you to see the full teardown, because I think it's really important, and unfortunately I don't have the tools to do that. I'm also going to include Wood's video where he did the review of the Satisfy grip, because I still think that this is a phenomenal grip, and if this didn't come around and I didn't have the interest in buying it, I'd still be using this to this day. And I think if this is an alternative for you, either because of price, the ease of use, or the size, or the weight, this is a good backup. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a video below that also goes over someone who did not like the Nitro Deck. Why? Because I think it's important for you as a consumer to know whether or not this is right for you. I'm biased, right? Why? Because I'm holding it. I have this in my hands and I know how this feels. I cannot convey to you any more other than saying it's comfortable. You are not holding it, so therefore the opinion is kind of my own. So if I give you the opinion of someone who doesn't like it and can counter some of those parts that I do like, then it gives you more of an informed idea of whether or not this is right for you. So keep an eye on those links down below in the comment section. And with that, I'm going to leave you there. Thank you guys for joining me, and have a great day.